All right, guys, what's happening? Andre with AndreReese.Biz. All right, so what I want to talk to you guys about today is long distance relationships, sort of, but most importantly, avoiding getting scammed. And what am I doing right now? I'm out here in Richmond, Virginia. I'm on my bike ride. I think I'm gonna try to do 13 miles this morning and get it in. We gotta leave roughly about 10:30 and head to church. So let's see if I can get this all accomplished and taken care of. So I'm gonna ride at a little bit faster pace, maybe, just to try to see if I could lap it. So come along and join me on this journey. And I will periodically come in and out of frame because I've got a drop post on my bike here. So it's not fixed in the height, but like I said, let me get back into it. So I want to talk to you guys today about getting scammed in long distance relationships. So I'll probably do another video altogether because my marriage to Marilyn, ours together, we are a product of a long distance relationship. But this is more about something that happened with one of my clients. And so, as you guys know, pretty much all my posts, my business name is AndreReese.Biz, tax accounting, retail, and life services LLC. And so what is the life services? People ask all the time. That's the part where it pertains to life, and it can be really almost anything. It can be about jobs, it can be about relationships, it can be about making a decision to marry somebody, start a business, having children, talking about an aged parent. It can be almost really anything. And so, all right, going up a little bit of a hill here, so I'm gonna be breathing a little bit heavy. Let's see if I can go around this bus here. All right, before the light turns green, get in front. Then hopefully get over. All right. I'll just go up here for safety. Okay, so I had a client call me during tax season. They weren't an existing client. And he had a simple question. He was like, hey, I met this honey boo boo. She used to live here in the States. And I really like her a lot. And we've been talking now for about 6 months. We've done some conversations online, through text, through email. They even had a few video calls. So he's like, I'm really starting to fall for her. I really like her a lot. And she asked me if I can help her because she got a notice from Chase Bank and they wanted to know, she wanted to know if I can help her pay this because it's going to essentially bankrupt her. And so he's like, you know what? I'm ready to send her the money, but I just feel like I should ask somebody if these documents are legitimate. And so let's just say the amount, this is rounded up to 100 grand is what she wanted and what she was asking for. And he's like, I got the money. I'm ready to send it to her, but something inside of me just tells me to ask somebody. He says, all I want you to do. And so, like I said, he found me through a Google search. My listing's still active out in Brentwood, and he wanted to just bring the documents in. But I was like, I'm in Richmond, Virginia, other side of the country. And so we can still transact business like I do with all my other clients, but I said, here, hang on.
Distance 3.0 miles, duration 25 minutes and 19 seconds.
Okay, clear on that side, clear on that side. I said, but you just have to get the documents to me. You can scan them, you can take a picture of them, you can fax them to me even if you need to. 100 different options. And he's like, okay, cool. How much is it? I said, I'll tell you what. I have a consultation service where I charge $195 for about an hour. And I have no idea really what's going on here, but I can take a look, and if it requires more engagement, I'll let you know. But based upon what you're asking for, like I said, he was kind of unsure of how to word it. I said, $195 will probably cover you. And I said, let me just get this straight. What you're looking for, you're just looking for a professional opinion, and you just want somebody to be able to look at these documents and tell you if they're legit or not. And so to tell you the rest of the story, it involved Chase Bank as well as the Internal Revenue Service. So what it was is allegedly the Internal Revenue Service was about ready to levy her account, and they notified Chase Bank that the money that she had in her account was going to be taken. And she couldn't afford to have the money taken because she needed to live. And then how else would she, essentially, be able to get over on this side of the country and hang out if she didn't have any money? So that's why client was very sympathetic of that. So like I said, the IRS was giving a deadline of a few days in advance before this happened. And then there was a letter from Chase to her. So the IRS letter was addressed to her saying what they were going to do. They were going to contact her bank. And then on the flip side, Chase wrote her a letter, allegedly, and said, hey, we got this letter from the IRS, and as of this date, we're going to take your money and $100,000, and we're going to go ahead and send it off to the IRS to satisfy the debt. And so that's where the story is. And ultimately, she spent, or the team of people that were the scammers here in this case, they spent about 6 months grooming this guy. And to give a little bit of background about him, as I talked to him, I realized he was a really, really nice guy. So very empathetic, and he'd gotten out of a divorce, out of a marriage a few months before, maybe a year plus, whatever it might be. And in this divorce, he'd given his all to his former legal spouse, and it just was a really horrible situation. He'd wake up one day and have one version, wake up the next day, he'd have a different version of her. And so he tried to do everything he can do to try to hang on and solve the problem, as any good husband would do. But in the end, it was just in his best interest to tap out and let the lady go. And so anybody that has a lot of empathy for people, they oftentimes feel like if I can just hang on and hang in there and be an example of light, that I could, help turn things around. And that's not necessarily how it works over time. People can only save themselves if they want to save themselves. You got to do everything you can do. You got to try to stick to your vows. But when things become, emotionally, physically, abusive, you got to make some tough decisions and decide, is it worth it for you to stay? And so that's, okay, hang on a second here. I stalled out. But, all right, so now, like I said, I'm down here in downtown Richmond, headed over to Churchill. But, so that's the story. The guy was still hurt inside, And he wanted to find love, like most of us do. I think most people out here, and not everybody's the same. So never get that twisted. I never want to refer that at all. But, good morning. But the guy really yearned for love. And he said he was on the dating apps and he was doing some local stuff, and pretty much everybody out here in the streets, this is kind of where things travel to. Said pretty much everybody out here on these dating streets, they all wanted something. So they wanted money, they wanted resources, they wanted something of a monetary nature. And so I think that also attributed to wearing him down over time. And so this criminal enterprise, the scammers, they utilize the long game here. So I can understand if you just meet somebody and they try to scam you for $100. It doesn't take long to get to that con. Hang on.
Distance 4.0 miles. Duration 31 minutes and 33 seconds.
Okay, so we're still tracking along here. So in the long run, if you want to get a large score, you're really going to have to spend a lot of time grooming the people. But in the end, the payoff is significant. So imagine if you can get a lick for $100,000 and scam somebody out of that, And so that's what they did. And like I said, over time, it probably was a crew of people that participated in the texting, the emailing, and then they probably had a ringer that was set up to do the phone call with him a few times. And actually, it might have been a spoof. And I've seen these before where they'll, especially with some tech jobs, is that they'll have somebody actually talking and AI will change their face and make it seem like that they're actually the one speaking when somebody else there is speaking and it's a different face altogether. So it's one person typing, especially like on tech interviews. You can say that you have one person typing, doing the coding, you have another person actually speaking, and this is all being broadcast and put together by AI to make it seem like it's a whole different person altogether. So this is probably the same thing that happened to him, because he was like, the conversation was really garbled. It kept cutting out. She was explaining that she was having a hard time with her internet and all that. And keep in mind, she's over in Europe. So communication back and forth between the US and Europe is almost like talking across town. They've got fibers, they got undersea cables, and so many people use WhatsApp to communicate back and forth. It's very rare to get, a 1992 experience today in 2025. And so, like I said, this is where they were. And in the end, she sprung this on him. They built enough trust and hope and fed into his emotions for him to say, yeah, send me the stuff. Let me take a look at it real quick. And, but something inside of him, because like I said, he was ready to wire the money, transfer it, MoneyGram, whatever it is that they wanted or she wanted. They were ready to do it. He was ready to do it. So here we go. Now, let me pedal up here real quick. Okay. So, like I said, he reached out to me, sent me the documents, and I was on my phone at the time, and I looked at them. And I'm not going to say specifically what the issue was, but in the end, if you know what documents look like, these documents were not Chase documents, and they were not Internal Revenue documents from the Internal Revenue Service. And so I even actually, I was like, okay, well, it's obvious that these things are fake. And I just said, well, let me just go look real quick at some stuff just to confirm. I don't want to just use emotion to provide the information to him. And sure enough, they were obviously very fake and very sad. So, and like I said, he was ready to cut the check and send her the money. So I looked at the stuff and sent him a message and said, hey, I'm around. I had a chance to look at your stuff. Give me a call and let's talk. And so I said, hey, I'm around after this time. Call me anytime after that. And he did. So he called me a little bit later in the afternoon and we talked. And I said, well, there's two ways we can do this. I can tell you yes or no, and you can go about your business. Or I can tell you yes and no, and also give you some pointers and some tips. And so he said, yeah, I prefer you to tell me straight up and talk about whatever else you need to talk about. So I said, yo, dude, I'm sorry, but all these documents, they're all fake. And we weren't on camera, but I can feel his heart sinking. So, and I really felt for the guy and was feeling his emotion at that time. And I said, the good thing was you didn't send the money off, because if you would have, they would have cut the trail cold and then this would have hurt. So I said, at this point, what you got to do is, these guys are all scammers, they're a team. And I went through and I talked to him and I told him specifically why the documents were fake. I walked down and I said, hey, walk down each document. I said, this is what the problem is. This is what the problem is. This is what the problem is. And this is what the problem is. And when you look at the IRS document, you can, this is a problem, this is a problem, this is a problem, and this is a problem. And so,
Distance 5.0 miles. Duration 38 minutes and 7 seconds.
all right, so we're at 5 miles now. So I told the guy, I said, hey, what you have to be commended for is your voice of reason kicked in and you didn't ignore it. And I said, this is what you're gonna have to use for the rest of your life to be able to maneuver and make sure that you're not being taken advantage of. That at any time that you feel you are, you need to stop and seek help or pause. That's all you gotta do. Okay, actually down here by our old home down here in Churchill. And I said, that's what you're gonna have to use. You're gonna have to use your 6th, 7th, and 8th senses to guide you through these. And I said, you're an extremely nice guy. I can tell it. One nice guy to another nice guy. But I said, it's not your responsibility out here to save these people. And I said, if the people you're dealing with all want something, those are the wrong people. And you can't just accept the fact that because the majority of people want something from you, that it's okay and normal, because it's probably not. And I said, all right, I'm headed downhill. This is one of my favorite parts right here. And I said, you know, I wish you well, I wish you the best, but just be careful out here on these streets because it's dangerous. And I said, and as far as it goes for this crew, and he wanted to know like how, but when I said, dude, I said, they got a team of people. They probably use AI spoofing and they try to cover it up with a bad internet service. I explained everything to him. And I said, you know, it's sad what they did. It really, really sucks. But, you know, the main thing we're focusing on here is that you still have $100,000 in your pocket. And you had a sense that popped into your head that told you, you know, stop. And I said, that is the most important thing here. So you paid $195 for me to help you. And I did. And it's probably the best $195 you've ever spent in your life at this point. And it saved you $100 grand, you know. But also at the same time, you know, going forward, you got to be careful. And I told him, I said, hey, you know, at this point, and he said that she was calling him regularly or texting him and saying, hey, the deadline's coming. Hey, trying to apply pressure. He's like, well, what do I do? I said, cut him off, block him. I said, do not even respond back to them in any kind of way, because you're giving them a second chance to try to close the sale. So I said, all you can do at this point is cut them off and leave them the hell alone, and just go lick your wounds, lick your wounds essentially, and just be thankful that you still have your money in your pocket. So in the end, he thanked me and he said, you know what? I appreciate you beyond measure. I don't even know how to even say it and thank you. And he said, you gave me some valuable advice, and I'm going to use that out here trying to navigate this scene. So, like I said, I charge a lot for what I do, but just to be able to speak, I charge to do that. If you're a client of mine, I don't charge anything at all. If you want me to prepare your taxes, I charge a lot. But in the end, you always have somebody that you can call, pinch, and ask a question and get a second opinion. And I have so many of my clients that do that right now. So if he was a current client, and meaning that he paid his tax prep fee last year, I'm assuming he's coming back this year. In between, he's able to call me at any point and ask me any question. And what I do is I have about 300 clients, and I've had many clients over the years that have come and gone. And I sit on top of a pool of wisdom, and I share that pool of wisdom freely with all my clients. And so what I know, I'm willing to tell them, and what I've learned from having my clients do things and then provide me feedback on some stuff that I don't do. Like I don't have rental property. I have no desire to have rental property at all. But if I had a client that had 10 rental properties and they had a butt ton of issues and problems, and I'm gonna take time to listen to them.
Distance 6.0 miles, duration 43 minutes and 51 seconds.
I'm gonna take the time to listen to them so that I can advise them the best that I can, but most importantly, so I can get the wisdom of what their real-time experience caused them and pass that on to my next clients. So, like I said, and so whatever I have experienced in my life, whatever my clients have experienced, you know, most cases when somebody calls me, I have a very, very strong and precise way of providing advisement. And so my job is not to talk my clients out of doing anything at all. It's just to provide them with the information so that they can make a decision. Now, if he decided to still go ahead and send the 100K, hey, you know what? That's on him. I can't be mad about that. I can't be upset about that. Good morning. I can't be mad about that. I can't be upset about that. He's allowed to make his own decision. So, and come to his own conclusion. And so that's the purpose that I provide here in this equation. So like I said, all the advertising that I do is everything I post, 99.999% somehow relates back to business. And even if it doesn't appear that it does, it always does. And the reason why I advertise like this and share information is because, one, I'm always looking for great clients, and two, I want to let you know that I am a knowledge resource. So that's the way it plays out, and I'm absolutely proud about that. And I've been in business now for 25 years. Each tax season, I think I probably save my clients multiple millions of dollars in simply just educating them, telling them about the tax code, how they can minimize their tax burden. And I save lives and families and relationships and help people get through difficult times. And this stuff all happens behind the scenes. So like I said, it gives me great joy and great pleasure to do these things. And I have learned in my life that it's always worth giving a lot, but a simple barrier like $195 for about an hour allows people that have true intentions to find their way to me and get the experience. So that's it, guys. I wanted to tell you the story about the guy that was a client that almost lost $100,000 due to a long distance relationship. And hang on a second. Just trying to make sure nobody runs into me. There we go. Cool. All right. And like I said, my relationship with my wife was a long distance relationship. It ended in marriage. And, I always used to be against them, but, there was a number of conditions that worked out on our side. So I want to talk about that in detail, probably on another bike ride one day. And until then, be safe, take care of yourself, take care of those around you. Remember, times may be difficult and challenging. You don't have to face this alone. You can always have me be part of your community. And I provide a valuable service to folks, and you can definitely benefit from it. So take care until we talk again. All right, guys, peace. Good morning. Whew. All right. Oh, shoot.